Hi guys, welcome to Pixel Affair. It's Kobe here, and in today's video we are going to see how we will do something like this using Cinema 4D, right? So this tutorial was actually inspired by a video I saw this morning on Instagram by Random Zero Mograph, right? So I decided to try my hands on it this morning and see like if I could do so. I spent a couple of hours and see if I could create something similar, and this is what I came up with. So let's get into Cinema 4D and see how we will set up something like this. So I have a new scene here. So I'll come in here and I'll create a sphere, right? I'll make it like, say, the radius of 10, and I'll create a clone, make it the sphere child of the clone, right? And we want to clone it on an object. So the object we want to clone it on is another sphere. So I'll come in here and I'll create a sphere, another sphere, but I'll make this sphere that we want to clone on a little smaller, like say 4. Right, and I'll actually change the distribution mode from the type from standard to icosahedron, because that one gives you nice let me actually make it big. That one gives you nice, let me change the display to garage shading lines, gives you nice even, evenly segmented sphere. So I'll set it back to like the 4, and then I'll select the clone, come to the mode and change it from grid to object, and the object we want to clone on is obviously this sphere. So you can see now we have these clones right in the center of our scene. I'll select the sphere again, and I'll actually reduce the segment because I don't want a lot of clones. So I'll reduce it like say 8, and then select the clone, come down here to the distribution. I'll change it from surface to polygon center, so every polygon will have one sphere, right? So basically we've created our sphere. So I'll hide this, the middle one, the small sphere, and then I'll right click on the clone, come to bullet tags, and I'll add rigid body, right? If I hit play, you can see everything explodes. So what you do is, first of all, I'll hit Ctrl D, come to the project settings, come to the bullet tab here, and I'll make sure gravity is set to 0. And then I'll select the bullet tag on the cloner, come to forces, the force tab, and I'll make sure follow position is set to like say 4, or probably, yeah, maybe 4 is fine. I'll do follow rotation as well. Maybe add a little bit of linear damping and angular damping to like 70-70. And now let's hit play. You can see like our clones explode and it doesn't go anywhere. I think the spheres are not enough, so let's select the R segment and make it like say 10. And now if you hit play, I think, yeah, I like this, right? So now we've created our spheres and it's in the center of our scene. But what we want is that we want it to be pushing out, like, some sort of going outwards. So to do that, I'll use a simple force, and I'll come into the force simulation tab, forces, and you can use either the field force or the attraction, but to keep it simple, I'll use just the attractor rather, because the field force, like we'll have to go to 2 or a couple of other steps, which can be confusing if you are a first time or like you don't know what you're doing. So I use the attractor. So what basically the attractor is doing is that if I hit play, you can see the attractor is, its name, like its name says, attracting the dynamics object together, right? But we want it to repel, not attract. So what I'll do is that when it's set to positive numbers, it's attracting. So when it's set to negative, it will repel. So if I set it to like say -100 and hit play, you can see it's pushing out. Even if I go to, let's say, -1000 and you can see it's pushing it out, but because of the follow position, that's why it's pushing out, but it's still trying to stay where it is, right? So we like the attractor. So in the attractor, I'll actually change it from acceleration. I'll change the mode from acceleration to force, right? It all does the same thing, but the force, you can see the force works differently. So with the force, I'll set it to minus, like say 4, and see what we have. It's the same thing, right? So now it's affecting everything at once, and we don't want that. So what I can do is that I'll select the attractor, and in the fields, I'll add like something like say a spherical field. I'll make it a little bit smaller, and I'll move it on the side again. Now if I hit play, you can see everything explodes. Now before, actually, let me disable the attractor and do something. You can see my scene, everything is bundled here and at frame if we move forward, everything like explodes and it forms well. So we want it to start from frame 0 and in this state, right? So whilst we are in this state, I'll select the dynamic tag here, come to the dynamics tab, this tab here, and I'll say set initial state. If I click on set initial state, now if I go to frame 0, you can see it doesn't start small and everything starts from this particular shape, which that's what I want. So now if I hit from here, everything is cool. So now I enable the attractor, and now if I hit play, let me enable the spherical field. And another thing is that let's increase our frames a lot. Now if I hit play, and now I take the spherical field, come here, and I attack, you can see it's pushing it out. I come up here, pushing it out. If I come up here, it's pushing it out, and all of that. So we are going to use fields to control when which clone should be pushed out and all of that, right? So we can use just fields, spherical fields, and any other fields that we want. So I'll first of all delete this spherical field. And what I'm going to do is that even though I'm going to use fields, but I'm not going to use them directly in the attractor. I'm going to use them through a group field. So with the attractor selected, I can simply create a group field, and you can see, let me bring it down. If I select the attractor, it has been applied. But if not, you can simply drag and drop the group field in here. Now with the group field, so that's where we are going to add our fields to it. So in the group field, I can come in here and I'll add the spherical field again. And if I hit play, you can see it's working. Let me move this one on the side. You can see the spherical field is working through the group field and everything. And the reason why I'm using the group field is that I want to use that everything that happens within the fields, the keyframes and everything I set. I want to use the same group fields later on another cloner. So that's why I'm using the group field. So with the group field, I'll select, the first thing I'll do is I'll select the group field, come into the fields, and I'll choose shader field, right? So we are going to add some noise to it. You can use the random, but the random doesn't give you enough control like the shader field with the noise. So with the shader field applied, I can actually come into the noise, click on this triangle here, and I'll come in here and I'll choose noise. All right, I'll click on the thumbnail of this noise, come in here, and now let's first of all increase the contrastness to like a lot, so that it looks like almost black and white. We can also, so if you hit play, you can see what's happening, right? We can also add animation to it. So let's increase the animation speed like 3, and then the global scale to like say 600. So if you hit play, you can see what's happening, right? And we are cool with it, but it's pushing every sphere, and we don't want the ones in the center of our scene, like our bundles of spheres here, to be pushed around like that. So to do that, I'll come into the group field again, and then I'll create a spherical field. I'll make it a bit smaller. I'll increase the inner size and make it smaller here, right? So something like this is fine. And so anything that falls within this spherical field, we don't want it to be pushed a lot by the shaders noise, right? So to do that, in the spherical field, in the field here, I'll change the blend mode from max to subtract, right? So it subtracts everything that falls within this spherical field is being subtracted from this noise, so that it doesn't affect it, right? So now if I hit play, you can see it's still like, yeah, even though some are being affected, but not all of them. So we can make the spherical field a little bit bigger, a little bit, maybe increase the inner scale a little as well. And let's hit play. You can see now it's just the outer parts which are being pushed around and everything, and we are cool with it. So now we have the noise going through and everything is fine. But before the noise starts going through, we want to move individual clones anytime we want to. And to do that, we have to know the ID of every clone, so that we can tell it that we want this particular clone to move and come back, and this one to move and everything. So to see the ID, if you select the clone, come to transform and change the transform, the display mode to index. You can see the index of the object is still staying where the original clones were generated, right? It's not recognizing the dynamic movement which has been added to it. So how do we know which is which? So to do that, we can, let me first of all set the display back to none. We can use a matrix. So I can come into the mode graph menu here, I'll create a matrix object, change the mode from grid to object, and the object we want to clone on will be these clones that we've created. So I'll click and drag the clone and drag it in here. You can see it cloning on every surface of the sphere. So now let's change it from surface to axis. So every clone will have one matrix, right? And this matrix will follow the movement and everything. So if you select the matrix rather and come to the transform and change the display mode to index, now you can see each and every clone's index, right? So we know this one is 68, this one is 57, and all of that, right? So basically we now know the index of every sphere, right? So now how do we tell the attractor to affect just only, let's say, a particular clone with a particular index, right? So that's what we want to tell the attractor, that affect just the, let's say, sphere with the index of 69, right? And to do that, there are very few effectors or fields that actually can do that, and one of them is the formula field, right? It has its effector, but in this case you are going to use the formula field. So I come into the group field, and on top of the spherical field I'll come in here, and you can see you have formula. So I'll create a formula field on top of it, and I'll change the blending mode. It's set to max. I'll change it to normal. So what is happening is that everything under the formula effector, the sphere and everything, is not recognized. It's just the formula that we are dealing with. If I hit play, you can see something is happening, and that's because in the formula field there's already a formula which has been applied here, which we don't necessarily need. So I'll clear it, set it to 0, right? And now you can see nothing is happening because we've not told the formula field what to do. Now if I let me select the formula field and drag this up, right? I've selected the formula field. So in there you can see we have variables, and the variables, we have a component index which is the ID. So we can tell our attractor to affect the ID, the index of our clone, our dynamic clone. So if I type in ID, just ID here without typing anything, and hit play, you can see now the attractor is affecting all of the clones, right? But in this case, let's say we want it to affect just the ID with the number of 11, right? This particular clone with the number of 11. All we have to do is ID is equal to 11, and now if I hit play, you can see it's affecting only the ID with 11, right? And now if I clear it and hit play, you can see it will go back to the spheres. So that's basically what you are going to do to keyframe. So we are going to keyframe the IDs that we want to affect, right? So to do that, let's first of all let it play to, let's say, at frame 60. We'll set a keyframe here with nothing in the formula field. We go one frame, and I'll type ID is equal to 11, and I'll set a keyframe for that. Now, so let's see it play. From here, nothing happens. Then, boom, it pushes it out. So we want it to go back, but then the next ID, we want it to affect the 57. So immediately we hit play, it pushes it back. Maybe at frame 679, we set a keyframe here, and at frame 80, we say change it from ID 11 to ID, this particular one, which is the 57. So ID is equal to 57. So now if we hit play, you can see start from here, pushes it out, and now it's pushing the 57 rather. So when the 57 too is pushed out, maybe you can set a keyframe here and say at the next frame push ID maybe 34 or 33, maybe 34. Set a keyframe for that, and that one will be pushed. And then after that one is pushed, maybe we set a keyframe, the next frame we will clear everything again so that it doesn't affect any of them. So I'll clear everything, and now let's start hit play. So start from pushes this one out, pushes this one out, pushes this one out, and now it all comes back together. So basically that's what we are going to use to push the spheres out using the IDs. And after that, we want the noise, the shader fields to take over. So right after it pushes this one out, and when this one is coming in, then we want the noise field to take over. Now, so let's select the group field, and for the noise field to take over, it means we have to make sure it's like blending mode. So you have to make sure the opacity of this one is set to like completely 0, and then from there the noise shader, the shader field will take over, right? So to set a keyframe for that in here, you can't do it within here, but to do that you have to select the formula field, and down here you can see the blending mode. You select the blend tab here, and now it's the same thing that we have here, so we can keyframe it here. So you see this one is set 26, and the same thing is happening here. So I set a keyframe at this frame, and when it moves in here, can set a keyframe. You keyframe it back to 0, and now let's see what happens. So from here, nothing happens, and explodes, and now everything moves in. But let's actually, before I do that, let me select. So for us to adjust the keyframes of these, we can come into our fields, and I'll select the formula field here, the opacity one, and I'll adjust it a little bit. So maybe I'll move this one somewhere here, right? I want this one, the last sphere, to move in, or anyhow personally you like it. So now let's see. Comes in, this one comes in. Maybe this one takes a little bit too long, so I can't even select it, and bring it somewhere here. Yeah, so maybe select this one as well and bring it back. So let's, it comes in. So yeah, basically this is the trick, or how I basically did this, using the formula field and all of those things to create this thing. So after this one, the noise also, we don't want the noise to continue forever, so we have to also keyframe the noise again. So I'll select the group field. So let's say hit play, everything comes in and comes out. This one pushes back, and then the noise takes over, something like that, right? And maybe at frame 235, I'll set a keyframe. I'll select, make sure the noise shader is selected, and I'll come to its blend mode, the blend tab, make sure the layer opacity, set a keyframe here, and go to, like, say frame something like that, and set it to 0. And now that one to kill the noise. And now if we hit play, we should be fine. So let's see what we have. Pushes this one out, and when this one is coming back, the noise also sets in, and then pushes everything, right? Maybe I'll actually select the spherical field and reduce it a little bit, and maybe even the noise speed, let's select the noise speed and probably increase it to, like, say 4, to see what we have. All right, pushes it out. I think, yeah, cool. Sometimes you can even change the noise to, like, say one of these noise to see what each noise gives us. So it's just a matter of playing around to see which one works for you, right? Right. And if you feel like maybe our attractor is too going too far, we can actually increase it or reduce it if we want. So we can set it to, like, say -5 and see what we have. So yeah, but, like, let's set it back to -4. I think is fine. So basically that's the idea. So now after that we've done this, right, the simulation, everything is working fine, right? But what we want to do is to add colors to our object, and because these dynamics are affecting our clones, to add colors, it might not respect the movement of the dynamics, right? So to do that, I'll create another clone, come into my object, I'll create clone, and in fact I'll name this first clone as sim clone, and then I'll call this one inherit clones. So with the inherit clones, we want it to inherit the movement of this particular clone. So you can do it directly, or because we've used the matrix to also follow this, we can actually clone on the matrix. So I'll select this clone, change the mode from object grid to object, and the object we want to clone on should be, I think we should actually do directly the same clones, should be the same clones, right? We clone it on them, and now it's set to surface, but we'll change it from surface to axis, right? So every clone will have every clone will also have this particular, will inherit one clone of this one. Now let's create a sphere and make the sphere like 10, same as the same one, and make it a child of this inherit clone, right? And now if we go ahead and hide our simulation clone, you can see still we have the inherit clone. If I hit play, you can see it's moving like, but actually this one is just inheriting the movement of this original sim clone, right? Or another way, we can actually use the inheritance effector to do the same effect, right? To inherit the movement of these clones, but in this case we'll do it directly. So now that we have this inherit sims and all of that, let's quickly do one thing. I think we should bake our scene for now. So to bake our scene, we can simply select dynamic tag and come to the cache and click on bake all or bake objects, all of them. But I would love to use a MoGraph cache tag. So I'll right click. In this case, I'll right click on this inherit, the two of them, right click on them, select, make sure inherit one, yeah, the inherit clone and the sim ones, the two are selected. Right click and come to MoGraph tags, and I'll say MoGraph cache tag. I want to try and see if this one works, right? So with the cache tag applied, I'll simply say bake. Actually, let me cancel and make sure we set our number of frames, like say probably, let's see, 400. Let's hit play to see how long the whole thing lasts before we bake unnecessary scenes that we might not need. So everything plays and everything settles maybe by 360. Everything has settled, so you can the two and say bake. Yeah, just go ahead and choose yes, and now it should bake our scene and it should be fine, right? So if we go ahead and hide this, you can see everything is working fine. Now you can actually scrub through to see everything. Now we are cool. So the next thing is how to create like the plastic holding them together. So that one I'll simply also come in here and I'll create a sphere. I'll change the display mode to like icosahedron again, and then reduce the radius to like say, let's check, right, reduce the radius to like say 60, maybe, yeah, I think 60 should be fine. You don't want it to intersect from the initial stage, so 60 should be fine. And let's increase the segment to like probably maybe 60 as well, right? So I think it's intersecting, so let's check once again. It's intersecting somewhere, but I'm not somewhere here. So let's actually increase the size of our sphere a little bit, right? So, or we can actually move it. Maybe it's okay. Let's leave it like that. So all we'll do is now is right click on the sphere, simulation tags, and you add a cloth tag to our sphere, right? And now if we hit play, basically the cloth will take over and then it will fall because there's dynamics, there's gravity in the scene, right? So you can see it's when you hit play now, it's falling. Now if I hit Ctrl D, come to project settings and then simulation tab here, I'll come to the scene here and I'll make sure the gravity is set to 0, right? And another thing is that I'll come into the clone, our cloth tag, The reason why at frame 0 to 60 I didn't actually make any movement is that I want to use that place to simulate our sphere wrapping around our clones, right? So that's why I left those place empty. So to do that, we just reduce the target length of our sphere to maybe 60, and let's hit play and see it disappears. What's happening is that it's forcefully pushing it together, wrapping it, like pushing each other close, so it's getting smaller, right? But we want it to collide with our spheres, so I'll right click on either one of them. I'll right click on the inheritance, and then I'll come to simulation, simulation, and in there I'll add the collider tag to our inheritance, right? And now if we hit play, let's see what we have. You can see now it's wrapping around our spheres, right? So now if at frame 60 it moves with the sphere, but you can see it's getting out. Even though it's colliding with the our wrap object, it's getting out. So let's select the tag here, and let's increase the stretchiness to probably, let's increase it maybe 30, and the bendiness maybe 30 as well. Let's see, so that it's a bit stretchy, right? So here everything simulates, and then it pushes out, and I can see it's not getting out because it's stretched enough, right? And then it all goes back, then the whole thing will be moving our spheres. And now basically we have our scene created, right? So from here going, we have, let's save our project, and now we have everything set. Now what's left is the colors, right? How to add the colors to our scene. So now, for now, what I'll do is I can select the cloth tag here and come to cache, and let's cache it as well. It will take some seconds or a couple of minutes or so to cache our scene. So now we have our scene cache and everything is fine. So I can scrub through and you'll see everything moving like the way we want. You can simply select the sphere, come to render tags, and I'll add a display tag to our sphere and change, make sure use is checked, and I'll change the display to lines so that we can see what's going on within our object, right? So now everything is set. How do we add colors to it? I think I probably might have made a mistake here, but let's see. I should have probably added the clone colors and everything, because we've already cached the MoGraph scene. We have a little bit of challenge. I think we should have done it earlier before caching it. But let's see. If I come in here and I apply a plane effector to it, you can see it's not working. Probably I think we should have done it earlier before adding making the whole thing. So if I add, like, see, fill, see, the color is not working. It's not working. So we should have done it earlier. So it's not a big deal. All we have to do is make sure we uncache everything and get back to our initial scene. So I'll delete the plane effector and I'll select the MoGraph everything. I'll make sure the sphere is also like everything that we've cached. I'll clear cache for the sphere and I'll hide it for now. And then I'll come into these two tags, right? I'll select the two and I'll say clear cache. I'll say yes, I'll clear everything. And you can see when we cached it, it also cached our dynamics as well. So now the dynamics is also free. You can even select it and make sure it's cleared. And now let's see what we have. So we are back to original state where everything is dynamic. First, let's actually even delete this collider tag for now. We don't, or let's move it on the matrix. We don't want it to distract anything. All right. So now if we hit play, we can see our spheres, everything is moving, right? And what you are seeing is not the simulation clones, it's actually the inherit clones, right? So to actually apply the colors to our spheres, what we do is to now select the inherit clones, come to MoGraph, and now, in fact, I'll first of all not select it, make sure nothing is selected. I'll create the plane, and I'll drag it down. I'll come into the plane, the parameters, I'll make sure position unchecked, and now I can select the inheritance cloner, come to effectors, and I'll drag and drop in the plane here, so nothing happens. What we want to use the plane for is to use the fields color to drive our inheritance. So now if I select the plane, come to the fields tab, and drag and drop in the group field, you can see the colors are showing here. That's why I wanted to use the group field, so that everything that we do, we can simply just drag and drop. You don't have to recreate and keyframe and everything again. Everything happens within the group, and you can reapply it to this particular cloner object. So now you can see the colors are showing through our plane, through the plane effector to this inheritance one. So what we do is that I'll go into the group field, I'll drag and open it down. The formula field, actually let's come select the group field itself, the formula field, and you see we come to the color tab here. We don't want the color tab, we don't want color, so we choose gradient, right? And at the same time select the shader field. You can see the noise is not showing through, so I'll make sure the noise color is checked, and we don't want the spherical color, so I'll uncheck that one. And now if we go back to frame 1 and hit play, we should be seeing our noise. Actually, let's select the shader field, and also make sure the color mode is set to gradient, actually gradient, right? And this one too is set to gradient, and I think everything should be working fine. Let's see. Matte frame 60 pushes it out, pushes this one out, and then pushes this one out, and let's see if the color now you can see the noise has taken over, right? Noise has taken over, and now let's everything settle to see what color it settles on. And see now everything turns white, right? But we don't want it to turn white, right? We don't want it to end, we want it to end white, but we don't want it to start from black. So if you see, it starts from black and it ends at white. So to do that, you just select the formula field, and I'll just invert it like that. I'll select the shader field as well, right click on the gradient here, and I'll say invert gradient, and now it starts from white, everything will play, and then it will end with white. So from after here, then we can go ahead and bake our MoGraph so that everything is fine. Yeah, see, pushes it out, and now everything is moving, and then it all settles back to the same white color. Yeah, so everything is basically fine now. So we can simply now select our MoGraph object, MoGraph cache tags, and now let's go ahead and bake it. So I'll select the two, now choose bake, and I'll say yes, and now take some few seconds to bake. So now our MoGraph is baked, and now if we hit play, we should have everything. Should be able to scrub through with the key for everything. You see the colors and everything showing and all of that. So now we are good. From here going, now let's go ahead and do our simulation of our cloth. So I can now enable this sphere, right? And the settings, everything is on, and let's see if it also works as well. So hit play. Oh, I've forgotten. We've actually, the collider, we've taken it out of our clone. So now let's bring back the collider on our inherit clone like we did initially, and let's hit play to see what that one's also give us. And now everything plays, and now I can see it's also moving fine as well. So from here going, we are basically cool with it. It moves everything out, it tries to push out, it doesn't happen, and then it falls back in line somewhere here. So that's basically the whole scene. So the next thing is how to use the colors, the MoGraph colors, to drive the kind of colors you want, or which material to show when it's black and which material to show when it's white. You know how to do that. So before I do that, I'll select the sphere as well, and I'll make sure it's the tag, the cloth tag. Now say calculate cache for it to also bake. So now the cloth is also big, so now I can simply strap through and we have everything set and everything is working fine as we want. So now let's go ahead and see how we will use the MoGraph colors to drive our shaders, the kind of colors you want or the kind of material you want to use. So with our materials, we're actually going to use Redshift to render this. So I'll come into my materials and I'll come to create Redshift, and I'll create a new material from Redshift. So I'll double click on the material to bring the shader node, and you can see we have our Redshift shader node, right? And in here, let's first of all apply the material to our clone, which is the inheritance clone. So I'll click and drag it and apply it to it, right? And then in here, we look for color user data, right? And you can see there's it. So we drag the color user data out. In the color user data, we come up here and you see, click on this triangle, go to MoGraph, and you say choose MoGraph color. So now it's reading the MoGraph color, which is the black and white that we have here, right? So we can simply, if we just want to use that MoGraph color to drive, let's say, our regular colors, I can simply connect this one, the color user data, directly into our material here, put it in the blue input here, and we want it to affect color, right? So we choose diffuse color, right? And now you can see everything has gone black, right? So for us to see what's happening, we will need our Redshift render view. So I'll bring my Redshift render view here. I'll probably put it somewhere here, right? So that we see what's going on. So this is our Redshift render view. First of all, let's go ahead and make sure we hide every sphere thing that we have. So what we have here is just the Alembic file. Let's hide that one for now. Let's hide the Alembic, right? So all we see is just the spheres, but we want to see the color user data. So if we scrub through to somewhere here, right, you can see the color changes to black. So for us to see what's going on, for us to change the black and white to any other color we want, we can use if we type in here ramp, right, and bring in the ramp node. It's like a gradient node though, but what it's doing is that it's remapping our black and white. So if we connect our color user data to this, and we make sure you're choosing inputs, and then connect the ramp into our diffuse color, rather, nothing really changes though. But then now we can use this color to this ramp to remap the black. So where it's black, we want it to be, we can change the color to, let's say, red, right? And you can see now the black has turned red here. And now where it's white, we want it to be like, say, yellow, right? And now, so we can use this ramp to remap our colors, right? So if we want to use direct colors, this is how we will do it. Let's actually add like a dome light to add an HDR or something. So I'll come into my light and I'll add a dome light to it. And maybe for now, let's see if I can add a material, an HDRI image to it. So I've added this HDRI dome to our dome light, right? So we can see some background-ish kind of thing. So we can simply, we don't want to see it though. So we can come, select the dome, come down to the environment background here. We want to check it so that we don't see what's happening, but it's highlighting our spheres. So basically, if you want to use just some colors that we want to drive it, then we can use the ramp to remap it. You can actually go ahead and add other colors where the colors fall within, let's say, somewhere here. You can see in here there is a little bit of gradient in here, right? So this one is orange and some other. So we can actually add a third color if you want and make that one maybe blue, and you can see now the blues are fine. So you can use this ramp to remap the colors if you want, but that's not what we are going to do. We want to create two separate materials and use the gradient to tell it where it's white, it should show this material, and where it's that's what you want. So I'll delete the ramp for now. Everything will go back to default. So this is the first material, and then I'll create an Okumini type material. So I have another material created, right? And I want to blend between these two materials, so we use the material blender as well, right? So in the material blender, I'll select this first material, put it in the output, and I'll say it should be the base material, right? So I'll choose it as a base material. And now if I connect the material blender back to our output here, you can see nothing changes. Then this second material we've created, we want it to be, if I click put it here, you can see layer 1, choose layer 1. So this is the next material, so it's like layers. So this is the first material, the base, like, and this one is layer 1, right? So if I come into the layer 1, let's change the color to, in fact, I have this textures which I've created here already, so let me bring it in. So you can see it's this like emoji face and this one, right? So let me bring the two in already. So I'll select the two and I'll drag and drop it in here so that we have the two textures in here, right? So there's one down. So I want this one to be, so to connect the first one, which is the yellow one, I can the general, to the color of this material. So I'll just click and drag it here, and I want to connect to the diffuse color, and I'll do the same thing for this one. I want to connect it to the diffuse color for this one, right? Now everything is fine, but we are not seeing the red. It's only showing the yellow. So to do that, all we have to do is use the color, because it's black and white. And if we come into the material blender, you see the color layer 1, it has blend color, it's set to black. So when it's black, it means nothing shows. When it's white, right? When it's white, everything shows, so it shows 100. But we want to use this one, which is the alternate between black and white, to control it. So now I'll simply drag the color user data here, come to the layer 1, and you can see the blend color. Connect the color user data to the layer 1 blend color. So I'll connect it, and now you can see we have yellow and we have white, right? Blend yellow and we have red. So where the shader is here, black, I don't even know which is which, but then it blends between the two, right? So we can go back and take this one away, and now if we scrub through our scene, so you can see where like see what's going on here, where the color is, I think, black, it shows the yellow, and where it's white, it shows the red. But I want it the other way around, so let's actually flip our material. So I'll take this material blender, this material, and connect it to the base, and this one rather to the material layer 1. But I hope you get the idea, right? So now it starts with yellow and now turns red, right? So that's basically how to set up your scene using the same trick and everything. So from here going, let's actually see if I can select my spheres and increase the rotation and make it smooth. Yeah, so I'll make it smooth, and then let's enable this one, and this one you can use simple file save. I can come in here. Let me first of all add a subdivision surface. I actually bake the sphere like into Alembic so that it's quite predictable, right? So you get a smooth sphere, and then let's create a material for that. So let's come into create a Redshift material. All right, let's apply it to our how do you call it? I'll call it plastic or rubber, whatever. And now select the Redshift material, come bring its node, and let's change it to, maybe, let's see what happened to if we do it glass. And see the glass, I think, is too much. So maybe from here going, we play around with the glass material. Maybe I'll actually go back to the plastic and see, and come into the refraction and set the refraction to, like, say 100, And basically that's how I created it. I think you can see it's giving us this warp looking effect, which can be cool depending on what you want to do with it. But it's giving us this warp like refraction. The refraction is actually affecting our image, so we can select the material, which is the glass material. In the refraction, you can click on thin wall, and now you'll see it as a thin wall thing, and there's no refraction in there. All right, and now we have this and all of that coming back and forth. So that's basically how I created this effect. I hope this video was useful and you've learned a couple of tricks and tips in here. Thank you for watching, and if there's any comment, you can comment in the comment section, any question, or DM me on Instagram as well. And kindly subscribe to the channel if you've not, and if possible also try and share the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.